Hello and welcome to Absolute Max Fishing. It's a show that's full of great ideas and tips of some fantastic anglers. Later in the show I'm on the Stainforth and Keadby Canal where I'm going to show you some of the tips that I've learnt over the years. But first we're off to the Glebe to meet the Finn. Let's see how we went on. Well, I know a few things about commercial fishing. I know how to catch the fish on quite a few methods. One method I don't do a lot of, I'm not very good at, is pace fishing. But I know the master of pace fishing. And I'm going to introduce you to the master. We're going to get a few tips from the master himself, Mr. Andy Finley, the Finn. How you keeping, pal?
Hi Tommy, all right.
That's a nice fish, isn't it?
It is, proper pace fish.
Now you do a lot of this, don't you?
I do. I just like when it warms up, you know, it is my favourite style of fishing.
I mean, I've watched you before and every time I watch you do it, I'm absolutely amazed how easy you make it look and the amount of fish that you catch to it. And I've tried to do it and I just can't make it work. What's the most important point that you think about pace fishing?
Well, it's getting the pace the right consistency. You need it really soft and using the right equipment, notably the pot and the float. They're the two main pieces of equipment that must be right.
In what way must they be right though?
Well, the pot needs to be right on the end of the pole like this one is. If it doesn't fit, then just wrap a bit of tape around the tip and so it's a nice tight fit. But you'll see the design of the pot, it's made specially for pace. The way I'm fishing it today, I'm firstly putting some pellets in it.
How 6 mils? They're big pellets, aren't they?
They are, but that's to suit the size of fish that we're catching on pace. Right. You know, it is a big fish method. We've got some really strong tackle here. We are aiming at fish, well, smallest £3.
Really?
Yeah, up to, well, who knows, 15, 20 pound even.
I'll tell you something, you put some pellets in that pot?
Yeah, well, I have been fishing this edge peg for quite a while now and there's some big fish there now. So, you know, I'm giving them some feed there so that they'll stay there.
So you feed them, yeah?
So yeah, I'll put them in first. You'll see that the top of the pot's got a dome in it. So now what I need to do is put the paste in.
Right.
This is the one-to-one paste I'm using, and the way I'm using it is I'm dipping my hand in water for a start, then I can pick the paste up so it doesn't stick to your hand. And then if you dent it with your thumb like that...
It's a big piece.
Yeah, well, as I say, we're after big fish, you know,
wow.
£3 upwards. But you could catch a £1 carp on that. It's surprising what they'll take.
Do you think when that's in, they come and just suck it all up?
They do.
Everything in one?
You know, that's just what happens by the way the float goes under it. One split second it's there, the next it isn't. Just the speed it goes under suggests that they just suck the whole thing in.
Wow.
So I've just indented it with my thumb and I've just pushed the hook at number 10 up, PR36. And then all you do then is just patch it up. But the most important thing now is dipping it back in the water.
Ah, right.
And get it really nice and wet like that.
Wow. So if you pick that up by the line, it'd probably just fall off,
It would just fall off.
Wow.
So that's why it is so important to have the right pot. And that just simply fits in there, just thumb it down.
Beautiful.
And we're ready to go.
So does that never get tangled?
It never gets tangled. The reason why that is because the float's attached right at the tip of the bristle there.
Ah, it's coming out of the top of the bristle.
It is. So you can imagine if that was fixed normally with the ring at the base of the bristle, then when I tip the paste out of the pot, then the line could
go straight down side of it.
And then it'd tip the float up and you'd have an absolute nightmare. But that never happens this way. Just make sure that when you put it in the pot, that your line's this way round and it'll never tangle.
Well, and there's no shot on the line either, is there?
That's right. Again, I say the second most important piece of equipment with pace fishing is the float. Now this isn't actually a self-cocking float, but I've made it self-cocking because I've got two number 8 slots at the base. But what you're looking for in a pace float is a few things really, but the most important thing is a really buoyant tip, because once the paste is in and it's self-cocking, you get loads of liners with pace fishing, you always do, but you need to be able to tell what's a liner and what's a bite. So you need a really buoyant, fairly long tip, at least an inch sticking out the water so that you can tell the difference between the liners and bites. But as well as that, it needs to be self-cocking because you don't want the buoyancy of the float pulling the hook out of the really soft
right,
paste.
right.
So that's why I've got the 2 number 8 stots there. And the other third requirement really to the float is it has to be really, really strong. You can imagine if I'm playing a big fish and all the elastics in there and they suddenly lose it and everything twangs back, then most floats will break at the bristle there.
But they do.
This Durafloat, the way it's made, is really strong. You know, you could stand on it and you could still fish with it after.
Come on then, catch me a fish. Now then, pal, as a match angler, I know now that when you put this in the water, it's got to be a certain way to make it work. But I don't know, because I'm not a paste angler.
Yeah, well, what's really important with paste fishing is that you need to be dead depth, so you know when your paste is on and when it's off, and obviously when you get a bite. So I'm just taking my time there, because it's a bit windy, and I've used that Lentin reed there as a marker, and I'm potting it in just in line with that. Just pick it up there a bit. So now I know when that paste has hit the bottom, I'm in direct contact with it. So I'm waiting for a bite. See a liner there?
I saw that, yeah.
It won't be long before we get a bite, hopefully. There's a bite.
There we go.
Feels quite a big fish, this.
Oh, this is a good fish.
But what's really important with plumbing the depth, it's quite difficult to fish a margin because it is sloping there.
Yeah.
You're much better off fishing at a flat bottom, because then, depending on where you pot the paste in, it's always going to be the same.
Is there a time of year that you would be using paste, or is it just something that you use all year round?
No, it's one of the most seasonal baits you can get, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe the best months for paste fishing isn't until July.
Right.
But the reason for that is because the water's been warm enough for long enough.
Right.
The fish have got a really big appetite by then. You'll catch fish on paste most through the year, but there's always, in the early part of the year and later on, there's baits where you'll end up catching more. So it's best just to use paste, you know, in the warmer months.
Right. One of the things you always impress me with is that everything you do it steady, but you do it 100% dead right. Whereas I see lots of anglers doing things 100 mile an hour and not doing it right. I've never seen you rush getting a fish in, presenting your bait out, but what you do, you always come back with a fish. And I think when I watch you fish, it's the biggest compliment that I can pay you, really. That it's a lovely fish, isn't it? A lovely common fish.
Nice fish.
Well done, mate. That's awesome. You do make that look so easy.
Well,
and I've tried it, I can't do it. Right, so basically you think they just come suck it all up and then it just goes wallop and on?
Yeah, although the float goes under and we strike instantly, then sometimes I don't think there's any need to, because once that hook's in the fish's mouth, it's sucked it right in because it wants a soft paste, then it's going to hook itself whether you strike or not. And what happened there, the fish just tore off with it in its mouth because the big liner held the float under the water for a start, and obviously whilst it was under the water a fish ate it and off it went.
Amazing.
But this is a bit bigger fish, this one is.
So use it puller kit as well, just shorten your line down like you spoke about.
That's right, it just gives you another gear.
Yeah.
In paste fishing, you're catching big weights and you don't want to be spending too much time playing a fish. They're normally big fish. If you imagine you've got a full kit of this elastic, then you probably have 4 sections in the air now instead of just the top
And if it wants to go, you can let it go like that?
That's right. There's a lot of pressure on there. I'm having to
It's a good fish,
time with this one.
Amazing, really. I mean, I've been brought up with pole fishing. There's like nothing really in the textbooks about pole fishing that you would do, but wow, how effective it is.
It is, it's just, you know, in them summer months when you get long margins and you know there's big fish about, then it's the #1 tactic
That's
to
a
win a
big
match,
fish.
it really is.
What about in open water? And if you're fishing in open water, you just exactly the same, but fishing
Not
deeper?
exactly the same,
No?
you do need a different float for that, but the principle's the same with plumbing up. Hopefully in open water there's more chance of having a flat bottom, so the fishing is easier like that.
Oh, right.
But you can get problems with the lake towing round and moving your float over, and that can be quite difficult, as well as if it's really windy.
That's quite interesting, that, because I always look for slopes and ledges when I'm fishing my normal way, with pellets and meat and corn.
Yeah,
But obviously with pace you're looking for a flat bottom.
you are, you know, it's good to fish near a slope, but you've not got to fish a long way out with pace, because a lot of these big fish live on that sort of 6 metre line,
Right.
and most fisheries bottom out at about that range.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So just past that ledge.
So whereas I'm looking for the bottom of the ledge and coming up 6 inches, you're
Yeah.
almost looking for the bottom and going past it 6
just
inches.
past it, yeah.
Wow,
That's
right.
the best place to fish pace out in open water. But sometimes it won't work until later on in the match, when the fish gain the confidence, the bigger
Yeah.
fish gain the confidence to feed.
That's quite interesting, that though. But we're both attracted to slopes, but for different reasons almost.
Yeah.
Ah, good fish this, mate, isn't it?
It might be the biggest today.
That's a lovely fish, that, mate. Really is.
Nice common this time.
You don't need many of these to rack a weight up, do you?
This is it, you know, you don't have to catch one every
Oh,
cast
look at
in.
that. It's a beautiful common, that. Oh, that's beautiful. Well done, mate. What's that, £10?
Yeah, I bet it is. It
Yeah.
looks like it's...
Yeah,
Still
lovely
got
fish, that.
some
Well
eggs
done,
in it.
mate.
Oh. There you go, that's pace fishing. Get your tactics right at the right time of year and catch fish like that.
Well, I told you I was the master of pace fishing. Absolutely amazing. Take a look at this lot. Let's have a look, mate. Well, I don't think we're going to get them out. I think we're just going to have to tip them out in the water. There's just too many to lift up. Andy, crikey. Well, that were absolutely amazing. It just goes to prove, if you get your tactics right, them's the rewards that you can get. Absolutely fantastic.
Okay, this is me. Let's talk about elastics. There are hundreds of different elastics on the market, so it's very, very important you choose the right one for your fishing situations. Let's talk about my hollow elastics first. I've got 3 grades of hollow elastics here. The blue is 9 hollow, the red is 11 hollow, and the green is 13 hollow. I'll just start off with 9 hollow. It's a very, very good hollow elastic for fishing for smallish fish, skimmers, cruising carp, F1s and small carp. But the biggest bonus with hollow elastic is you can fish heavy line. For example, today at Barston there were some big carp in here, and I fished a match the other week, and I didn't really want to bump any skimmers or F1s off, and I actually caught a carp of about 15 pounds. If I was using normal elastic, the elastic would have probably broke. So it gives you that added bonus. If you do go to a venue with big fish, you can still use softish elastic. Going on to 11 hollow, which is this red one. Fantastic elastic again. This is for medium-sized bream, tench and medium-sized carp. But also, again, you can use this with big carp. You think you're going to catch a lot of small 2 and 3 pound carp, but you maybe catch a big carp, it can handle it. Going on then from 13 hollow. This elastic I use for all of my carp fishing, anywhere from 4 to catching carp for £15. It's a proper bagging elastic, very strong. You can fish 6 to 8 pound line on this, no problem at all. So that covers me for my hollow elastic. The other option you've got is solid elastics. Here today I've got three different grades and 3 different colours. We'll start off with the lightest one, which is green, number 3. Fantastic elastic for fishing canals for small fish like roach and perch. Going on to the number 5, which is a blue. This again, still quite light, but can probably cope to fish up to a pound. I use this a lot for roach and rudd fishing shallow. The other option is double with elastic. This white here, this over hollow gives you the added bonus. It doesn't stretch as much as hollow, but it is very strong. I use this a lot for F1 fishing in winter time where I don't want to lose any fish. And also when I'm fishing against islands for F1s, this actually gets beefier as it comes out. It doesn't stretch as much as hollow. So that's my 3 tips on solid elastics. Well, there you go. You had a small insight of elastics. If you make the right choice, you will catch more fish.
Here we are on the Stainforth and Keadby Canal. We're on the famous Stanyland stretch. It's a canal that's full of fish, but it's a bit different to a lot of canals, this one, in the fact that it's wider, it's deeper, but it doesn't really matter where you go in different canals throughout the country. There's different methods work, but there's always one method that always works on the canals, and that's squat fishing. The first thing we've got to do is to set the peg off. We've got to put a nice base on the bottom that the fish feel comfortable over and come over and start feeding. So we have to use a ground bait that the fish feel comfortable over. I use Silver Crush ground bait. But into that ground bait, and I've mixed it slightly on the damp side, I put a few squats in. I want to get these squats on the bottom to encourage the fish on the bottom to start with. And I get a tennis ball size and I put 3 in at the start to set the peg off. But I make them as I put them in, otherwise the squats will riddle out of the ground bait. I put them in a big size cup, pick a marker on the far bank, which in this case is a green box, and always take your time when shipping out. Ship your pole out, and then about a foot above the water, just lower it in and tip it. What you don't do is touch the water with the cup. If you touch the water with the cup, it makes ground bait stick to the side of the cup, which is no good. Once we've got this base of ground bait on the bottom, what we've got to do then, we've got to create a fall of squats going through, all the way through to the bottom. Because they're very slow, I want the fish intercepting all the way as the squats are going down. There's 2 ways of feeding. One is with a catapult. You pick the catapult up, and what you're trying to do is to put 20 to 30 squats around your float. You fire them out, and what you're trying to do is get them in a circle around your bait. The other way, as you can see, I've just got a small fish on, so it's working. It's a small perch. But sometimes when it's very windy, it's more difficult because they're very light and very soft, the squats. They don't go a long distance. So when you're fishing longer, you have to fish it a different way, especially when it's windy. And all you do is just hook the maggot on, and you've got a little cad pot on the end of the pole. And all I'm going to do that is put some squats in, 20 or 30 in the cad pot. It's got a lid on so they can't come out. And the idea of this is to put them in a little area because you can't reach with the catapult because of the wind. And then all you do, you keep it upright, ship it out nice and steady. Unlike a commercial where you might just tap it near the water, I don't particularly want these squats to be all in a little line. So what I do, I lower it 2 foot above, turn it over, tap them so they go in a little area, and then I know that my hook bait is in the middle of them. Them's the two ways that I feed. One, when it's flat with a catapult, but if it's windy, use a cad pop. While I'm out of the water, I'll show you my terminal tackle and the rig that I'm using and why it's got to be this way. First of all, the hook size, and it's a size 22. When it's very difficult, we're only after a few fish, we use a 24. But you can see from that it's a small hook because the hook bait's very tiny. The hook length is 6 inches long, and that's usually to an 06, 07 or 08. Again, it's a light line because we want it to fall through the water very slowly. Then the terminal tackle, which is the shot, which is going to cock the float. This is very important. I have shirt button style, so they're spread out about roughly every 5 to 6 inches, a number 10 shot, like so, but only in the bottom half of the depth. Now that's quite important. I don't want it all the way through the rig because when it's in the bottom half it pulls the float and the float will cock to the bristle so that the bait is falling through with the feed that you're firing in. Now that is important. And as you can see from that, it's roughly what we call shirt button style. And the idea then is to feed it out, lay your rig in a line from you, not outwards, sidewards, over the ground bait. Then when you fire your squats in the middle of that rig as it lays in, it will fall through like that and hopefully to the feeding fish. And that's a terminal tackle. But remember, you must have your shot in the bottom half of the depth. There you go. How about that? Now I put that ball of ground bait in, and within 30 seconds I've hooked a skimmer, which is a fantastic sign because what that's telling me is that the fish are responding straight to the ground bait. But as soon as I put that ball in, I put the float exactly where it gone in, 2 squats on, and it went within 30 seconds. Now I know now in my mind that them fish are responding to ground bait. So what I'm going to do now is when I hopefully get this fish out, my next cast is after I put another ball of ground bait in. Because one of the things I've learnt over the years, when you're catching skimmers and they respond like this, what you've got to do is use that technique to catch them. It was so instant then, it just told me that they're responding to the ground bait. These fish are beautiful, aren't they? Look at that. £1.5 skimmer. How about that? It's great. It's great when a plan works. Now that's a beautiful fish, that really is. Now at this point it's quite simple what you do. When you know that the skimmers are responding to ground bait, you put the fish in the net, put the net down, you put your rig together, get rid of the bait, and what you do, before you go back in, you feed again. You get your cup, a few squats, just a little golf-sized ball of ground bait, put it in the cup and you go back out. And this is what a lot of anglers think. They think that, oh, I've just put a ball of ground bait and I might catch 2 or 3 fish on it, but they've eaten it. If there's quite a few fish there, they've probably eaten it. So the best way of doing it is to just put a little nugget in all the time and keep fishing that nugget. Catch a fish, feed a ball. Catch a fish, feed a ball. And when you're skimmer fishing, it's only like if you're casting a feeder out, you'd be putting ground bait in all the time, you'd be feeding it and feeding it. And that's all that I'm doing. I've caught a fish, I'm going back out with another ball of ground bait. Again, quite a positive approach, or a positive approach for squat fishing, 2 squats. And let's put it in that ball of ground bait again. I have a great saying I do, the fish tell you everything. And what they've just told me is that they're coming straight to the bait. Let's see if it works again. How about that? Beautiful. Right, while the tackle's out, I'm going to show you the float, because the float is really important. Now that float there is a silver PB6, and the reason why it's important when squat fishing is the shoulder next to the bristle from the body. A lot of floats have a shoulder on, and you don't want a shoulder on for squat fishing. You want it so that when it cocks in the water, it doesn't cock with the body out and then sinks. It needs to cock as the shot's falling through the water to the bristle. That's very important because you're looking for quick bites. So when it goes with the shot, it cocks straight to the bristle. That's very important, and that float does that. Also on it you want 3 rubbers. You want 1 under the body, 1 overlapping the bottom and 1 in the middle. That's as a security measure. What's also important is the length of line between the float and the connector. If you're on a commercial nowadays, a lot of modern day fishing, they have short lines because they're lifting all the time. But when you're fishing on a canal, it wants to be more natural. It wants to be in the water, so you're actually striking. And you want 2 foot of line between the float and the connector. Just let it all happen more natural, so that when you get a bite, you lift your pole up and you're actually striking into the fish. Got one. Right, there we go. Just caught one on drop. Looks like a little roach. Just take your time, let the fish play the fish on the elastic. Keep the pole low. Oh, it's a little poppy. Look at that, little skimmer. You can imagine fish that size that are actually swimming through your bait. You can imagine chasing all the squats that are falling through, and that's the idea. Lower it in, let it fall through, and hopefully you get them intercepting your bait halfway down. Nice little 2-ounce skimmer. And guess what? I've got a bream. Now here's a lovely bonus fish. It would be in a match anyway. There we go. Lovely skimmer. Now he gave me a good scrapping. That is a beautiful fish. That is probably £3. That was caught on double squat. Now that's a squat fish. You can catch roach, you can catch perch, you can catch gudgeon, but also with the squats you can actually catch skimmers and bream as well. And that's what makes it so special, this particular method, because all fish eat the squat. Now we go, my little beauty. Well, I've had a great day's fishing. Squat fishing is all about catching a variety of fish. I've got skimmers, perch, roach, gudgeon. I've had a great day.
As in match fishing, speed is the key. That's why sometimes the pellet feeder can be better than the method feeder. The method feeder, you're reeling in and squashing bait on a feeder. With this, it doesn't happen the same. All you do with this, you offer the pellet feeder to the softened pellets, fill it up 2/3 for a start, put the hook bait on top of the pellets, swallow the hook bait up with the feeder, a good squeeze inside. When it's on the hand, you can see them already trying to push out. When it's in the water, Everything comes out and the hook bait is in amongst the feed pellets. Absolutely brilliant, no carp can resist that.